Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we've got kind of a big show today. We're both pretty pissed.
Yeah, we debated about covering this because we don't want to give it more attention, but after going back and forth with the person who's behind it, and they refused to remove us from their site, even though they've removed other people from their site, we decided to point out all the bullshit.
So we're going to talk about Transparency Tube, which is a new website that purports to take any YouTube channel that they think has a political leaning and categorize it. And it seems like a lot of these people are being miscategorized. And it's based on a number of factors they claim. They claim it's academic and they're looking at your audience. And
yeah, that's what I don't understand. What is it based on? Because you get different stories depending on the part of day. And now one time it's like, oh, by your content. The next time it's by who responds or watches your videos. Like a content creator has control over that?
Yeah, and we don't. And this is just another potential weapon that could be used against smaller YouTube channels who are already having a hard enough time holding their own against these mega corporations that keep pushing into YouTube and pushing people like us out of YouTube, as well as journalists with malintent.
Right, they're just pissed because people are going to YouTube to listen to people like us instead of reading their articles, which are usually skewed, which is what we point out, which is why we do this channel in the first place.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about this, and we've been going back and forth with some of the people behind the site for a couple days now, and some people have been able to get themselves removed because, again, you don't opt into this site. They're basically scraping data off of YouTube, I think using YouTube's API, but they're also scraping subscriber information, and they're using that to determine basically what your audience is, and they will categorize you based on what they think your audience is. So we here at Clownfish TV have said many, many times where our personal political leanings are. Somehow we got lumped into the right-wing anti-SJW category along with people like Steven Crowder. Mm-hmm. But we're in good company because just some guy who I'm pretty sure is a liberal has also been lumped in.
Well, we always were moderate leaning left. Registered, you're libertarian.
Yeah.
I'm independent, but we always were, now I was Democrat before. We always were moderate. We leaned left. The point of this channel was we got tired of watching people get bullied and abused. I will agree with the anti-SJW thing and the fact that a lot of these, the reason we started our channel was because if you didn't like Star Wars, we were watching people get called racist, sexist, phobic, being told they were incels and all this stuff because they didn't like a show or movie. You didn't like She-Ra. Immediately it was because you were a toxic white fanboy who just wanted to fap to She-Ra. And because of this, we spoke out against it because we got tired of watching people, and ourselves included, get bullied for something, I don't like her shorts or something stupid like that, and being equated with you're anti whatever. And it's a bullying tactic. It's a load of shit, and we're tired of it. And the media is perpetuating it. That's what we call out. That's neither left or right. That's just the point of the situation, which the media is definitely far left for most cases, and they are going too far. So we call it out. Well, that makes us alt-right Yahtzees.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, they haven't put us in far right, but they have different categories. They have partisan left, late night talk show, mainstream media, the right and left, religious channels, conspiracy channels, libertarian channels, socialist channels, MRA, men's rights activists, anti-theists, and QAnon.
And
so at least we can get lumped in.
Why do we need this anyway? What is the point of this site? There is no point for this. I love it. Go to his tweet where he was going on about it. And he was like, I love this because this is what I've mentioned. If you've watched our show many, many times, people have said I'm not to be trusted because I'm Republican, alt-left, anti-SJW, libertarian. I figure we need to keep these as even as possible and be calibrated. Yeah, you know what? We have mentioned many, many times that we got called those exact same things, that somehow we were both alt-left and, alt-right Yahtzees at the exact same damn time. Because when you're in the middle, everybody hates you. Which is what we said repeatedly. But no, according to this Mark dude, we are automatically categorized as right because he went and checked and that's what he decided.
Yeah, so they do a review, and he did a review of our channel. We'll talk about this. I've been back and forth with this guy for the last 2 days now, trying to get our channel taken out. Because as far as I'm concerned, again, with my libertarian leanings, I did not consent to be added to this database, nor did any of our subscribers.
Viewers consent to being, strip mined for information to label us for themselves.
Now, the biggest problem I have with this, I'm going to talk about
transparency, my ass.
Yeah, I'm going to talk. Well, they're pretty transparent about what the intention is, and I have theories as to what I personally think the intention is, or what it's going to be used for. The problem with this is if this, takes off, you're going to have potential advertisers and sponsors and business people going out here, and this is like the Chinese social credit score. Mm-hmm. They're going to go out and check your channel on this site, potentially, before they spend money with you, because they want to know that they're not giving money to the wrong people. Now, if you are misclassified, as a lot of channels here
and we definitely are. We
definitely are. If you're misclassified, you could potentially be talking about a loss of income, because they're going to be like, oh my God, you're just like Steven Crowder. Well, we can't give you Clownfish TV. We can't give you any sponsorship dollars because you're right there.
Making me sick with that zipping around. So okay. Don't do that.
Ben Shapiro and oh my God, and Steven Crowder, you guys are awful. We can't do business with you. That wouldn't look good.
And he even admits he's a conservative comedy show. We talk about cartoons and calling out, pop culture media, and this whole idea that, people aren't, we keep saying you're allowed to like it, you're allowed not to like it. But this ongoing narrative has been, if you don't like it, you're some kind of hater. And we call that out. That's what we do. We don't sit there and say, did I tell you should vote for? Actually, if you recall, the one video I said, a couple videos I said, you can vote for Biden if you want. You can vote for Trump if you want. It's your right to vote, and you don't owe people an explanation. Clearly I am, alt-right.
Well, let's look at what they're saying. Now, there's only like 3 people involved in this, main people involved in this, and I guess they were recruiting reviewers from Twitter.
But they were. I saw it. They was out in July. He had a post up asking people if they wanted to review YouTube channels for his project. Now, I want to say this before you get into this. I don't care if it's a bot or if it's you have some kind of learning program, whatever. Whoever wrote the program is going to put their biases into the program. So if this person has a tendency to lean a certain way, that's going to be reflected in the AI. No matter what you do and no matter what you say, everyone has biases. It's going to reflect. So right away, it's already skewed. Then they were searching for people to verify these accounts and label them. They were on Twitter looking for people. Well, right now I can tell you, if you go to Twitter looking for people to review YouTube sites, you're going to get a certain leaning, most likely.
Yep.
So how is this unbiased? There are going to be biases within your reviewers. This whole thing is a load of shit.
So this is, there are multiple people involved. We're going to talk mostly about Mark Ledwich and Sam Clark. Sam Clark, who said, and this is on their About Us page, on the press page, Google has the technical talent necessary, but there's no good business reason, and a lot of bad ones, to do this research. On the other hand, journalists and social scientists see the clear necessity of this research, but don't have the technical knowledge to pull it off.
Why? Why would journalists? Okay, social scientists I can see. Why would journalists need it? Oh, because they push their certain agendas on every damn website ever.
Yeah. So again, this is perhaps, maybe, possibly, perhaps this was started as kind of a academic social experiment or whatever, right? Here's the thing. YouTubers are basically at war with mainstream media right now because they hate us. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, they hate us because every time they go to YouTube and they watch a YouTuber, especially news channels, it's taking views away from their channels. It's taking money away from them. They're laying off journalists by the hundreds, by the thousands. And meanwhile, YouTubers are doing better and better and better because people go to YouTube because of the independent voices that aren't part of the system.
Because people that aren't bought off.
Right. They've been trying to take PewDiePie down for years. In fact, just a couple days ago, it was rumored that he was being shadow banned. Now, that could have potentially happened or been triggered too by a group of armchair activists that were trying to actively flag his channel or figured out how YouTube worked to be able to exploit that. A site like TransparencyTube is going to make it so much easier for these salty journalists and activists to be able to find and target channels they don't like, false flag them. We've been false flagged. Try to go after their advertisers, even if it's not true. They're just like, oh, let's just compile a list of all the quote unquote anti SJW channels, and we're going to call all that. See if they have sponsors, and we're going to call all the sponsors and tell them to stop sponsoring them. There could be catastrophic real world consequences to labeling people like this, especially if it's not true. And again, I would say any YouTuber who's watching this right now that has a financial stake in YouTube that you need to push back against this.
You need to ask to be removed. All we do is call out shitty behavior. And if it leans one way more than the other, that's because the journalists lean one way more than the other, and we're calling the journalists out. Because I'm sorry, when you do a whole article calling people names because they didn't like Star Wars, that's a little bit of a problem. Because we've seen that a lot of these quote-unquote journalists were just activists who got themselves on these platforms as a personal soapbox to spout off bullshit, which is what we call out.
Right, and here we have again, if you read this press release, Transparency Tube fills this data vacuum to help journalists, researchers, and the curious better understand YouTube's political landscape.
To what end?
To what end?
For what reason?
Yeah, I have a very strong feeling about why I think this was built, considering that one of the persons involved is a professor at Berkeley.
At Berkeley. There's no bias here at all.
And she's been promoting this quite heavily. She talked about people opting in.
We were never asked to opt in.
No, we were never asked. She asked about channels wanting to opt in back in March.
But we didn't ask to opt in, so why are we on there? In fact, we put out publicly, repeatedly, we want opted out. There is no place to opt out. Yet, some channels are being removed when they're asking to be removed. We will not be removed no matter how many times we ask, which sounds like a conflict of interest and sounds like a definite bias, which right there means that this whole project is flawed.
Yeah, it's flawed. This isn't a sign. Again, even if it started out, and fine, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Even if it started out as being a purely scientific thing.
Why make a website out for everybody to see it? Why not just release it as a paper?
Exactly. Basically, what you're doing, Mark Ledwich and friends, is you're putting a huge target on the foreheads of a bunch of independent content creators. It's going to be misused by journalists and armchair activists to try to take down YouTube channels.
And they did it for both sides. So far left people are going to be targeted just as much as people that are listed as far right, depending on who the activist is and what they want to do. So it's not just people like us who are misclassified and put in certain places. People that are misclassified in other places or even classified correctly have now targets on them because to certain people because of this site.
You don't know what content creators go through on an almost daily basis. Even channels that are very, very tame.
Even ones that aren't political at all got labeled.
Yeah, there are channels that are false flagged all the time. There are campaigns to take down channels. And I'm not talking about right wing or left wing. We're talking just like somebody just doing a cooking show.
Right.
Or somebody talking about cartoon shows that somebody doesn't like the cartoon show. They will actively try
cartoon people are the worst.
Oh my God, yeah. They will try to take down their channel. You've basically just compiled a public list of all of your enemies on one side of the aisle or another, and you're like, sick 'em.
Yeah, it is not okay. And if people want to be able to opt out, I think that they should probably have to have a way to opt out of it.
I can understand. We'll talk about this because I've corresponded a little bit with Mark here, and he's not being incredibly helpful. I'm going to be honest. He's basically, I think his idea is that like the public has a right to know this. I'm like, well, the public has a right to, factual information, not what your algorithm or what your reviewers personally think a channel is based on their own biases.
I don't think Mark would like it too much as people started classifying him incorrectly because their computer said so.
Yeah, what if you couldn't get a job, Mark, because somebody labeled you as like being alt-right or something?
When you weren't. Here's the next thing. I love this about labels. People are like, well, labels aren't necessarily a bad thing, aren't they? Because it's funny, on Twitter, we've been told for years that you have to respect people's identities and their labels. If they have pronouns listed, you have to respect them or you're a bad person. If they decide to identify as a deer on Twitch, you're supposed to respect that or you're a bad person. You have to respect that whether or not it's true scientifically or factually, it doesn't matter. It's by their personal truth. Okay, fine. We have been very respectful of people's personal truths. We tried very hard to respect pronouns. Other channels don't, but we do. And we go out of our way to do so. Well, how come now if I identify as a centrist or an independent and Kneon identifies as a centrist or a libertarian, those are our labels. That's what we self-identify as? How is it okay that this person goes and labels us something else because his computer and his viewers that we don't know their political biases reviewed our channel and they said we were too? Well, I could look at somebody and say, well, you're not this or that because physically you don't look that way, or, you're not a deer. So how can you say you're a deer? I'm not allowed to do that. I'm a bad person if I do. But they are allowed to label you based on a computer AI program with people with biases.
Right. And I reached out to him because the only reason we know this exists, honestly, is it came up, I guess, on Friday Night Tights, and our channel got discussed in particular because people who follow our channel know that we are, very moderate, left-leaning moderates. We stay at time again. We don't go after super spicy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We talk mostly about pop culture, and what we talk about a lot on this channel, if we get political, is we talk about the extremist journalists.
Right, we call it media. That's what we do. If we get political at all, it's in regards to journalists and it's in regards to people being bullied and name called because they don't like a stupid TV show. Oh, and prom is overused.
Mostly just hot takes on cartoon shows, comic books, anime, that sort of thing. But they basically said in their press release that they want to help journalists identify YouTube channels. I'm like, we have enough fucking problems with journalists coming after us.
Ironically, I am a journalist on a Disney blog, and ironically, Kneon has been an editor, a journalistic editor for years. Did you ever need to know what people's political biases were on their YouTube channels or on their personal, their personal biases?
No, I mean, usually it comes out in, the manner of speaking or whatever. But I mean, with everything being more and more polarized, and again, knowing up front, okay, as a professional YouTuber, that the journalists are gunning for you because it's basically their livelihood at stake, I can't get on board with this. It's legit frightening, and it's not because we're like, oh, we're afraid people are going to think we're Yahtzees. People already do.
Anybody who listens to us knows it's not true.
Yeah, they already do.
Anime News Network called us that, and they recanted it. They took it back.
Yeah. So that, whatever. We're used to it. That we can deal with. What I am the most concerned about is that this thing is basically a super weapon that could be turned against so many YouTubers, both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you're basically just sorting them into houses. Right? Everybody gets the Harry Potter reference, right? You're sorting them into houses, and you're basically calling a whole bunch of people Slytherin when they're Gryffindor, and people aren't going to work with the Slytherins.
Ironically, I am a Gryffindor.
Yeah. I think I'm a Slytherin.
Right. You were between that and Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
Anyway. I am, no matter how many times I take the quiz, I am always Gryffindor. Okay,
so we talked about, Ledwich. He does have pretty strong political opinions himself. We went out to, Medium. He's writing articles on Medium about this. And the thing is right after I kind of got into it with him on Twitter, and I asked him specifically, re-review our channel, beyond that, take it down. He refuses to take it down. I mean,
but the precedent's been set when he has removed other people's channels from his platform. Then he is deliberately not removing ours, which is a bias, in which if you're going to do it for one, you have to do it for whoever asks. You can't just say, oh yeah, I'll take theirs down, but I'm not taking yours down. No, that you can't do that.
Yeah, so Appa Ben did a video on, and I watched it last night, and he's from Indonesia. And he's like, I don't give a shit about American politics, but if right-wingers follow my YouTube channel, there's not a damn thing I can do about it.
Just like us. We are in the middle, but a lot of people just follow us right and left because they said, finally, somebody who's making sense. But anymore, if you are even slightly right or far left, you're considered right.
Seattle and Berkeley. Okay, got it.
Oh, that makes everything you need to know.
So, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say that this was just a purely scientific thing. They wanted to see how.
Then why put it as a website? Why not put it as a paper that can be reviewed and vetted?
Yeah, and I can't get on board with that because you've basically pointed the gun at the heads of so many independent YouTubers right now because your system is flawed. It's absolutely flawed. And you've shown clear bias. You're not it's not like the machine is just going through and being like, doing all the learning.
Well, like you said, upon deeper reading, it basically says your channel is right, not because of the content or the views of the creator. It's labeled as that because who subscribes to it. Which means you're going around and following subscribers and scraping their information and checking them. That's hello, who do you think you are?
So we had a defender come in, this Cryon, who actually has deleted their Twitter account, and I don't know if they were one of the reviewers. The only people they followed it was Mark Ledwich and somebody else, and I think they're both associated with this project. And I said the problem I'm having is that because they said, okay, yeah, you can't do a defamation suit. I never said anything about defamation. Somebody else did. They said, yeah, no, if that was the case, the Traitors of America list would have been taken down a long time ago. Now, for those of you who don't know,
I didn't know. I had no idea what it was.
The Traitors of America list is a list on oneangrygamer.net that the folks behind that site are basically, these are people that they think are un-American companies. It is personal opinion. It is a manually curated list. Mm-hmm. And the thing that really set the warning bells off for me is a casual person wouldn't know anything about this.
Right. And why? And if they are involved, why was their go-to the Traitors of America list?
When there are tons of other...
When they're unbiased and completely neutral in everything.
Right. I've never heard of someone getting sued for defamation over a list on the internet. It's not a list. This is the thing. Transparency Tube isn't about manually making a list. It's presumably using YouTube's API to collect the channel's subscriber data without their knowledge or consent. They don't even have any kind of like opt-in or opt-out on their website. I don't know how legal that is. But I'm also like, the fact that you even knew what the Traitors of America list, the only reason we know anything about it.
I didn't know anything about it until you told me.
Well, I know about it is because, we have covered, gaming conflicts and all that. Now, we are not Gamergate.
We are not Gamergate. We are not Comicsgate. We are not Fandom Menace, which we have stated repeatedly. But doesn't matter.
Right. But I do know of it. I haven't really perused it that much. I'm aware of its existence. The fact that that was the immediate go-to when this would be such a thorn in the side of an anti-Gamergate activist, and only Gamergate people and activists would even know what the hell this thing is.
Right. Okay, for me being such an activist, I didn't know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
If I'm so, far right and anti this and anti that, how come I didn't even know what it was? Because I don't do that. I don't subscribe to that. I'm basically like, you know what? I've said many times, I don't care what race, gender, sexual orientation you are, political views, religions, whatever. I don't care. We're going to get along fine as long as you're not an asshole. That's what I said. Okay, my mom says I'm equal opportunity. I hate assholes all equally. How's that? Don't care which side you're on. If you're an asshole, I'm not going to like you.
Yeah, it's just a weird. I mean, there are people who are literally center, and they're listed as being center on that site. They've come out and said we're right wing, and they're listed as center. They go by your audience. So so again, here's another potential for abuse. If you want to get a channel canceled because you don't like that channel, what if somebody games the system and goes...
Squid King brought this up.
Yeah.
Squid King is the one who said, yeah, because it totally can't be cheated if you send a bunch of bots into like a channel you don't like that like other channels that are far right wing or far leftist.
Yeah.
No way that's going to affect the algorithm at all. And that was our son, our 17-year-old son, who's very smart, by the way. And he's probably will go into business. It was him who pointed it out.
So let's say that it's gamed by somebody who doesn't like you. And this is kind of like you run into this situation with like Yelp and everything else. At least Yelp's out is, well, these are user reviews or whatever. So what if you have an enemy on YouTube that sends an army of like ultra right-wing bots to your channel, right? With the intention of getting your channel listed as being something it isn't, with the intention of getting your channel pulled, having sponsorships pulled, having ad dollars pulled. Like, this thing is ripe for abuse, and these guys don't see anything wrong. They're like, this is fine. No, but it's just science.
And at the end of the day, what I have a problem with is somebody asked to be opted out, and you're letting some people be opted out. You need to opt out anybody who wants to be removed. When people are publicly saying to you, we did not agree to this. We want to be removed. We did not, this is not what we want. You were mislabeled. Then the answer should be you are removed. Other people have brought it up. Other people have gotten removed. One of them was that Star Wars girl.
Yeah.
If it's about being a woman, I'm a woman. I don't like my stuff being out there. Remove me.
Yeah, so as of recording this video, we have not been removed. I have written him multiple times.
I have written him as well.
And asked to be removed. I'm like, you need to opt us out. We are not giving you permission to, one, classify us, and two, scrape our subscribers' data, without their knowledge or consent. This is a disaster waiting to happen. It won't necessarily be with us, but if another YouTube channel has financial repercussions because of it, guess who they're going to look at for damages? I'm just saying, like, I don't care how you candy code it, that this is just a scientific thing or whatever. I think it's ripe for abuse, and it's going to cause major problems.
So you take the information, you write a paper, you don't name anyone, but say we found this many sites seem to fall into this category. These many sites seem to fall into this category without naming anyone in particular, but just saying, here's the data we found. I'm not pointing the finger, but here's the percentages. That's completely different than making a whole damn fucking website. Sorry, Mom. That goes around and lists people and names them and says this is what they are. If anti-SJW, okay, I won't argue that one, because if that means that the journalists are out there calling people names because they don't like flippant Star Wars or She-Ra, then yes, I'm anti-SJW. I'm anti anybody who goes around bullying others and harassing others. I don't care which side you're on. If you're getting bullied by someone far right, it's bullshit too. We've called that out before as well. I'm against bullying in any way.
Yeah, and that's what this is going to be used to do. It's going to be used to bully independent content creators. It's going to be used as a tool by their enemies to try to get rid of them, whether it's, again, activists or just rival YouTube channels. And we're seeing like what a battleground social media is becoming anyway. So when you've got, daily articles talking about social media being a battleground, about how small YouTubers are being pushed out for corporate interests or whatever, and then you say on your site that this is basically to help journalists, and the journalists are the ones that are constantly out there trying to shit on YouTube. From our point of view, it doesn't look like a very helpful website. I'm just saying.
No.
So is there anything else you want to add?
I just want it removed off the site because we do not consent. We do not agree. You have us marked incorrectly. We are centrist. I guess you could say, we could probably argue we have the anti-SJW. I explained why, because we would be anti-whatever. We'd be anti-alt-right in that case too. Notice there's no anti-alt. Is there an anti-alt-right category?
No, there's socialist.
There's no anti-alt-right category.
White identitarian. They've got QAnon. They've got,
So we are anti-alt-right. Far alt-right, as well as we are anti-SJW on the far left. We are basically against anybody who's a bullying asshole to other people because they don't share an opinion. We're of the mindset that, because I guess we're old school, we're of the mindset that, hey, you can disagree and still be friends. You don't have to be, your whole identity doesn't have to be defined by who you want to vote for this election. Which we said many, many times. We try to get political because we're tired of politics being shoved into everything. And so, people don't want politics to go to YouTube. And this dipshit comes along and tries to make it political for that too.
And I'm looking at these other channels and they've got just some guy in here, whatever, who actually gets way more political than we get. Most of these channels are focus more on politics. Now, I think Midnight's Edge is in there or whatever too, but we're pretty much just a pop culture channel.
Yep.
We're pushing back against the journalists who have taken...
Push against Disney.
Yeah. We actually agreed. We actually agreed with Elizabeth Warren writing that letter to Disney.
How dare you? You're not allowed to because they said you're right.
But yeah, we're right wing, so obviously we can't. Even though we cover video games, we do toy unboxings, we do
Not one
art.
thing there mentioned about politics in our write-up.
It only comes up because journalists keep inserting politics into pop culture, and you can't even talk about pop culture without getting into political debates.
Well, for the record, for YouTube and anyone else, I want to go on record as saying we did not consent to this. We identify as centrist. If I have to respect everybody else's identifiers, pronouns, etc., then you have to accept what mine is. I identify as moderate, centrist. I do tend to lean a little bit to the left, but I try to stay in the rational middle is where we come from. And I'm sorry if you don't like that, but that's well I identify. I expect you to respect how I identify, just as I'm expected to respect how you identify.
That is right. And that is a woman saying that. So you have you have to believe her.
That's right.
You have to believe her. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
I'm encouraging you, if you have a YouTube channel, go out there and check and see what they have you listed as, because I do believe that if this thing takes off, it is going to be catastrophic for channels. I think it's going to be used as a weapon. I encourage you to ask to be removed if you feel like you should be removed. And if you are removed and they do, let you be removed and take you off, please let us know, because we want to compile a list of who's being removed so we can show that they are deliberately not removing us for whatever reason. Yep. All right. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Notice we didn't say politics in there. We said pop culture. We never say politics. Pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.